What's up? My name is Cydni. Welcome to the second, well, it's kind of a part one and part two. The second sip and chat. What am I sipping on right now? None of your business. But my friend and I did a Zoom hangout where we sipped and we talk shit about coffee, about our past work experience, about just our ideals and how we function in the world. Some really good shit's popping. I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be two parts because, of course, it was a little long. I'm talking to my best friend, Sally, my sister. She is amazing, and she has been so supportive since I met her a couple of years, 3 years ago? I don't know. But, yeah, Sally's wonderful. We're both competition baristas. She does Taster's Cup. I do barista competition, and we bonded over a love for coffee, a love for life, and a love for people, and a salt for people. We are sisters in salt, and I love her so much, and I cannot even speak high enough about her. And so I hope you all get to know her. You will never get to know her like I know her, but like I hope you all get to know her too. I will insert her information below. She does a poetry postcard thing, and if you want to support her as she shares joy with people, I will insert her Venmo below. This whole situation is brewed on a budget. And I am so excited to be able to do it and kind of keep it raw and uncut so we can share these authentic experiences. But the quality will get better as I get better and as we progress and as my budget gets better. If you want to support that, I'll insert my Venmo below. If you want me to try a coffee, I will put my P.O Box below. So just look below and get all the information. We brewed an ungraded coffee from Ethiopia. Super awesome concept and idea, and I'm just like really excited to be able to share the dope conversations that I have with my friends over.
I went ahead and brewed some coffee because I was like, fuck it. So I will withhold my judgment until you try yours.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, it's 60 grams for 30 seconds. Okay. I was creeping on their Instagrams and stuff, and it seemed like super promising.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I like good vibes like everybody else, but it better taste good.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, look at your curls though. Like this isn't even high definition and it looks really good.
Thank you. Who knew not bleaching them to death?
That's very true. I don't know that I've like known you to like chill on my hair dye for this long. Like
I've never had my hair dye since I was in like 5th grade. That it wasn't either bleached or permed or something. This is the longest I've just had my hair, and I think I'm going to keep it.
Good.
Because it's easy to deal with when I'm not murdering it. So. Ooh, that cup is nice.
This is like apparently a Ukrainian style teacup. It was in one of the random boxes of things that Jason's mom just always ends up like divesting from her house. And for the longest time, like I never used them because I was like, oh, this is like too fancy, or what if I break it? But then it's like, well, why is this sitting in my house if I'm not going to use it? So
okay.
And if it breaks, it breaks. It's not the end of the world.
And like, that is a cute, I haven't seen any coffee shop with that type of cup, so.
Yeah, I think it's mainly like used for tea service as far as I know. I've never really, I don't know, seen one other than at, I guess at a Russian restaurant. Yeah, like that's been it. But yeah, I have a few. This one's got fun little blue flowers on it. And I've got another one that's just like silver, but it's like a little bit, so the thing about it is like it's just like a vase that they rest in, and so unless you have like a glass that's like a pretty snug fit, like it feels a little bit risky when you are like trying to tip that towards your mouth to drink. And the other like silvery one that I have is a little bit scarier. So
What do you think about the coffee?
so I like it a lot. I made it with my French press that I liberated from the last time that we worked together. And so like I do French press a lot at home because then I can make enough for me and Jason in one go. But it ends up like, of course, like leaving, you know, more oils and like particles and things like going on with the coffee. But I think it works for this. Like I almost like, when I first like ground up the coffee, I got sort of like appley and like floral like scents to it, like with the fragrance. But then like after brewing it and drinking it, it's almost coming off like a cherry Pepsi sort of situation to me. Yes. And I really like that.
I definitely get the like sweet red something, a pop, like, you know, the Fanta, the cherry Fanta. You know that girl that used to, is that not the Fanta girl that used to twerk?
I don't know about a Fanta commercial. I don't know.
My jam, but the sun's out. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, finally. Like, I really want to work in my garden, but I've got to go to work here in a bit. And it's a shame that it's going to be a beautiful day. And I'm going to have to be watching all these people try to phase 2 their way into a dose of the Rona. Like,
that's so frustrating because it's like, why can't y'all just act right? Everywhere else in the world, people are like really putting an effort into like just putting on a fucking mask.
Okay, except have you like seen about Sweden and how they were like, oh, we didn't expect it to be so bad. Like, and I'm just like, this is literally why the plot of Midsummer makes sense. Like, you're just letting all of your old people die. Like, now I kind of get this culture a little bit. But the thing about that though, like, so when I was first like reading news stories about how they were just very like laissez-faire with it, I was looking, and even some of the restrictions that they did have were stricter than like places here. They're just still having a bunch of people die. Yeah, like they're still like restricting like distance at restaurants and like the number of people that could gather at any given place. Like, so they actually did even have some restrictions, and people were still dying. Like, but you know, we're just gonna watch that little graph like climb on up for North Carolina because it's Memorial Day and we shouldn't close for Memorial Day, apparently. Like,
because what did people fight for and die for? Your right to die from the Rona.
Like, I can't contribute to the economy if I'm dead, but go off. Like,
I mean, even the like Christians, and this isn't me being like a hater, I go to church too, but even the Bible says the dead can't praise him. So like, why like why y'all trying to die? Like, it's a death cult. Like, like, I'm sorry, like, this don't make any sense. But I was thinking about so you introduced this to me, Boycott coffee, grind responsibly. And you know,
oh,
like,
did you get your little like
yes, oh, I have it in my wall. So I've tried to stop living like I'm going to have to move soon. And so I've been decorating my house and like putting things on my wall. Look at that growth.
Yeah. Look, like, it's a good time to be nesting too. Like, if you've got to hunker down, then you might as well make the space your own.
Hold on, let me get it off. And I like the like graphics, the like lips. Here's what we know for grade wet process per liner. Taste buds. Yeah. So I like it. I vibe with it. When I first saw it, I was like, this is some bullshit. To be honest. Yeah, but
I mean, that's part of the thing though, right? Like, I mean, we have these like pre-assumptions, like based on like packaging or like how well a farm markets itself, or, you know, who they're connected to. And that's kind of like, from what I can gather, like the point behind the project is to, you know, work with folks that the specialty market would be leaving behind, but that obviously the commodity market is leaving everybody behind if they're a part of it. Like, so, okay, you might get like a little like hand stamped paper bag sort of situation and everything, but the coffee, like,
the coffee's good. Like,
I like this a lot better than some things I've had, like
round the way,
fancier things round the way, you know, like.
Also, so I realized that I have some insight on like how they choose just from working with Caravella. Sorry.
It'll happen again someday.
Like,
that will be the last coffee job you have.
right. But so, and how like the attention to detail that Caravella takes, but all the different like labeling. What I did like about them, because I normally go into any coffee job with like an expectation of like, this is all bullshit, and you kind of hate brown and black people, but you hate them less. I know that's cynical and that's terrible, but
it's not unfair to feel that way, though. I mean,
and I was pleasantly wrong as hell, because like it's not just about like the different gradings, but they were giving them tools to make themselves the most profitable, and like doing some stuff like pre-buying and wait, you know what I'm saying? So people get paid quickly, because like sometimes people are like purchasing from these importers and they don't get paid until like the next year. And so like places like Caravella and stuff paid them almost immediately, like for what they would get from these things. And then there's so much like communication between like the quality control, which is what I was working in, and then the farmer, and like, hey, you may want to tweak this. And then they were like setting up washing stations to make it like easier, because like the logistics of like, we love high altitude coffees, but like who trying to climb up a mountain and down a mountain? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, I miss my mountains, I have to say, but yeah.
No, I mean, and I would love to like go and visit these places, and just like get out of here, because I don't know, existential crisis from a pandemic. But like, yeah. So the more information I knew, the short time that I was working with them, but the more I knew, I was like, wow, this is a good company. And then J&P does like similar things. J&P, that's her name? Yes. Janine from J&P does it because Caravella does Central and South American coffees, and she does the African coffees. The person that I use for my competition coffee. So like, yeah, it's a lot of like bullshit that's happening, that's being marketed to us. But there are some people that are like trying to do the best they can with what they can do. Like there's no, positive consumption under capitalism, but this isn't the chat for that. But
I mean, it's always the chat for that, but no, I feel that.
I was just thinking about like how like most of this is like pay, like the biggest like conversations, like how much we are going to pay these farmers for like keeping shit alive. And like, I can barely keep mint alive, as in I've killed mint. And like, that's really hard. Like mint is a weed. It is invasive. It and it just like gave up the will. It's just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. You know? And so like, I just thought like, this is really great that I'm talking to you about it, because you are actually a freaking expert on pay, since nobody gives you your shine except I feel like I need to do a disclaimer. And the views and the opinions expressed are the views and opinions of those who express them. We talk about a couple of subjects on here that may be a little touchy, or people may have feelings about them. Opposing ideals are fine. We don't have to agree on the same thing. We don't have to have experienced the same thing. But as long as we both enter the space with respect and acknowledgement of our place within that space, it's all good. It's all beauty. It's all Gucci. And this space particular is mine. And so I will freely express my opinions, and anyone who sits and chats with me, I have given them that space to freely express theirs as well. And I'm just like really thankful that coffee as a whole, we all talk about things and we talk about difficult subjects. People engage with each other on, and you know, really pit their opposing ideals over a great cup of coffee or whatever. And you know, it's a beautiful thing, but we got to keep it cute and we got to keep it beautiful, because I don't try me. Okay.
Well, I think like, so I think the thing that like I would say in that regard, you know, why I was able to, you know, get our store where we worked, like rest in peace, Duke, but like to a to a living wage, was because I myself like recognized that I was in a place of privilege where like I could put myself on the line like that. And I think that that's a huge thing to like. It's one thing to recognize like your privilege or your position in society yourself, but it's another like bigger, scarier step to kind of like put that in motion and like do something with that. Part of my personality that helps with that is just I'm reckless as fuck, like when I get mad about something. And so when I realized the discrepancy between like what folks at our store, like, you know, including you, like, and just all of our like regular like line baristas were making, and like the rest of the company, like what the difference was in tips, like I, having been there myself, like as a barista, like I knew how hard y'all fucking worked. Like, I mean, 700 customers like in a day, like straight through, like I mean at like Starbucks drive-through levels, like constantly, but specialty coffee, like stuff that like you're having to like literally craft like and do it quick. And so it was something that like couldn't rest easy with my spirit. So like a little bit of that coming out and like fighting for that, like part of it is because like, you know, I want to be grounded in like what my values are and actually put those into practice. Part of it is just like I can be a heinous bitch like when I like get mad about stuff and like when I need to like do something. And I feel like that's part of that's it's a strength for me, but it was also like something that I was able to do because like I have a partner like, you know, who has a pretty secure job, like who has like a family that's stable, like and has a safety net. Like I knew like in the back of my mind, like, okay, like it would fucking suck like if I got fired for bringing all of this up, but it's like worse if I said nothing, knowing that like at the end of the day, like I would be okay and I could like get a job like somewhere else, like if they piss me off enough, like kind of thing, which eventually I did do when they did piss me off enough, like, and left, you know, for a lower paying job just because like they were that awful. But so like it's a hard balance, and like looking at that like in the context of like, you know, coffee as a whole, like people like trying to, like I feel like in the specialty industry, there's a lot lately, like you know, the past few years that I've seen, like, as I've gotten to know it, like, really positively in terms of, like, how people are recognizing, like, just the value of the labor that goes into coffee at every level, like, from, like, growing that from the ground up, like, you know, what it takes to harvest and bring in coffee, what it takes to, like, you know, import it and produce and roast and, like, craft it into a delicious beverage. But I think sometimes, you know, there's a gap between what you see as a problem and then, like, finding a way to, like, step outside of that system and, like, do something different. And that's something that like, we all have to individually, like, work on, because, you know, you see a lot of companies that will, like, put in their, you know, marketing materials and bylines and stuff about, like, how well they're treating people, but we all have to look a little bit deeper and think about, like, what we are doing as part of that system as well. Like, what are we consuming, what are we producing, like, and what are we supporting, you know, both, like, with our own labor and, like, with our dollars, and, like, balancing out what we value in the whole grand scheme of things.
So I've been thinking about that, and I actually was disillusioned and kind of, I understood why, like, from, like, a Black person, and, like, have been Black my whole life. And so
really, that didn't just happen.
but, like, you know, like, and I'm like, how is the civil rights movement stuff and, like, the mobilization, and, like, how are people forgetting? Like, how are, like, we, not to, like, tell someone else's personal story, and I won't name names, but, like, just to the point of, like, even within our own company, where, like, we had a Black barista who was told to not eat at the counter, and we're, like, 40 minutes from Greensboro, where there's a whole fucking museum, as to, like, why that's not, like, okay, you know?
Well,
and
to be fair, like, it's interesting that you bring that up, because, like, for me, like, that was not something that I immediately, like, registered when, like, that happened to that barista, like, when she was told that, like, you know, I knew that it was fucked up that she was being told to, like, take her food elsewhere, but I didn't think about, like, the next level beyond that, like, oh, like, literally, like, give it a couple decades, she wouldn't have been allowed to eat at this counter, like, and it's literally physically, like, what is happening here. And it took y'all saying something for me to connect that last little dot, like, even though, like, I knew it wasn't sitting right with me, like, I, in my mind, like, was not articulating, like, exactly why. So it takes a little bit more sometimes.
It does. And that instance was kind of like, it was a, you know, like, the great, like, changing point in my life, because, like, one of my, like, benefits, side point, like, slash, like, downfalls, is that I have always been able to articulate my feelings, and I, like, code switch at will. Most of the time I choose not to. And, like, I think that I would have had an easier way in many things if I had some like, chill, but I just don't have any. But, and that comes from, like, you know, my parents, like, making me, no, okay. But that comes from, like, my parents making me and my brother, like, just talk about our days from, like, so they took the time, and, like, one of them stopped working. It was either my mom or my dad that stopped working. So we would sit, and they would make us talk about our day and be like, hey, this is, and articulate how you feel. And, like, when you fucked up, it's like, don't just say, I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? Why did you do this? And blah, blah, blah. And so, like, being forced to be able to articulate the space I'm in allows me to be able to do that easier. And when I talked to the barista, like, because, you know, I wasn't even there, but she called me, and she was so angry, and it was like hard to be like, I can tell, like, part of the frustration was, like, I can't say exactly why I feel so disrespected, you know, and, like, give words to, like, why I feel so disrespected. I just know that I'm fucking mad, and I want to fight, and there's nothing I can do about this. And, like, and so that's one thing that, like, one of my biggest things that I have had to, like, forgive myself for, because everybody knows what happened with all of that, but that like I didn't just be like, this is wrong and I'm gone, you know, when everything happened. And like I, you know, I sat here and like I was so offended when they like posted, BuzzFeed had that picture of me, and I just like,
oh my god,
I was
yes.
like, I was the happiest
Like,
Negro employee, and I love my job, and you know, like
they found like the one picture of a black person that they could to like illustrate that article, and it wasn't even the right black person. Like,
and I was just like, I felt so much shame, and I felt like I betrayed her, because even though like this wasn't my fault and I tried to set them up, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't care. Like I tried to set them up when I emailed them, I was like, don't do this. Like she's never been documented for this, like blah, 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 blah. I tried to set her up to get like the payday. But like I sat here and I know that I didn't do as much as I could have because I was afraid, because I was like, well, you know, my dad had just, you know, was still in the hospital at that point.
yeah.
And I have like responsibilities and I need to be able to take care of myself and like all these things. And I just like, but even so, like, I just, you know, I felt like, oh, I'm the like black person that they're going to like point and be like, see, they're not racist. Cydni works there, you know?
But, and I get feeling like that because of course, like, you know, it's easy like when you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of power to blame yourself, because like that's one thing that like you can control kind of is how you react and like what you choose to do and what steps you take. But like in the bigger picture there, obviously like the culprit in that situation was clearly like not you. It was clearly not like the barista that got told that she wasn't allowed to eat in the store and like all the number of other things that happened to her. Like it was, you know, a company that was refusing to see like, you know, the clearly like racist like undertones to like a lot of their actions going on. It's part of like coffee as a whole, which like in so many ways like fails to like deal with that issue. Like, and just like obviously our society like that you've lived in and been black all your life, like, you know, like obviously like I don't have to tell you, like and I think like, you know, I personally, I felt like after I left that job, like I felt some guilt too, and like still like a lot of anger like for a long time, just because I was like, you know, even for all the risks that I took or like things that I did to try to like ameliorate the situation a little bit, like be kind of intermediary, like I always felt like I could do more. But at the end of the day, like, you know, we can control what we ourselves do like as individuals, but it takes more than just like one individual as part of a system like for things to change. And like unfortunately we were in a situation with a company and also just in a space where like we hit a wall and there wasn't productive dialogue that was going to happen like anymore. And I think part of like letting go and moving on, like it's forgiving yourself, like, you know, and part of that, I also kind of question myself, like, is it also like forgiving other people? Like, would it give me some more peace about the situation? Like if I like forgave like some of the folks that did me wrong. I'm not at a point yet where I'm just like, yes, I forgive them for what they did, because like they ain't shit. But it's like, it's hard to know, like after going through like a traumatic experience like that, like where you're very clearly like the victim of like an injustice and like, you know, a survivor of like so many kind of micro and macroaggressions at that point, to like to find peace in that, like, you know, like even like moved away from it or whatever. And so it, you know, it's always just more than one step, like, and you know, I'll feel like sometimes like I've, you know, moved on and like, you know, I see things I could have done differently, but like I understand why I didn't, and like some days I'll feel at peace in it, and sometimes I'll see like a social media post like where like some particular person or company is getting praised, and I'm like, what the fuck, like nothing changed, like sort of thing, and like be right back in that space where I'm just like bitter McBitterson, like all over again. And
I think that's exactly why, that's what makes it so difficult to like, people be like, just like get over it, like, you know, like that, all of that happened, and like in the big scheme of our lives, like that's just like a blimp, and all that. But it's just like,
that's survival, that's money though too,
right.
Like it's not just like a blip on your radar when you've got to pay rent, like
exactly. And like there's like no consequence, none of, and so now that like we've promoted ourselves, or Corona has promoted a lot of us in the community to customers for a minute, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Promoted to like a stay-at-home, like
exactly. Like what our responsibility is like, hey, you need to invest in people who are like at least attempting to do more than just the status quo, and like post a couple of farmers on there and like pat themselves on the back for giving them a 2011 Dell desktop for 30 kids on the farm to share. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's so like, it's interesting to bring that up because like that's something that I've been trying to like examine as I've been like kind of, you know, in the Rona like lockdown, and like not able to like go as many places and buy as many things. Like I've been very fortunate in the sense that like I'm an essential worker, like, you know, I'm at a grocery store, like obviously they're not going away anytime soon, like I'm going to be there until like, you know, the whole store gets Corona or whatever. And like my husband, you know, teaches online, so like has a salary, like so we're studying that regard, so like my income hasn't changed. And so I look at like, you know, the fact that I'm spending less now and like sitting at home more and thinking like, okay, well when I am putting money like back like into my community, like when I am like purchasing goods or services, like obviously I've been making do with less, so I can put a little bit more like towards like a place that I see like has more value that it's giving back to others. And like it's something that I feel like we can all like use this opportunity to say like, you know, maybe this place is a little bit more expensive. Like I'm going to pay like $3 more for a bag of coffee than I would like this other place. But do I see this other place like actually like coming out and like advocating for its workers, like needing to like make money on social media? Or did they just lay everyone off like without warning kind of thing? Or, you know, when it comes to like going to restaurants, like which places like stayed open and like kept everyone like on the payroll and like made sacrifices in terms of like the owners and like everything, or which places are like, I know everybody there like got nothing, like, and then went on unemployment, and then they were recalled, and if they didn't come back then they lost their unemployment, like kind of thing. Like, and I think we all, like, if we are able to, like, if we're in the spot where we've still got like income coming in and like thinking of like where we're going to spend it, like this is a chance to be like, okay, what do I want to survive like this period of time? Like what, like, because obviously our government isn't coming in to like support anybody like with loans or stuff. So like, what do I actually want my community to look like when this is all over, kind of thing.
I want to shout out a local business, of course, Coco Cinnamon, because not only, so it didn't sit right with me, a lot of it, and I'm not trying to be like shady towards anybody else, but if you feel a breeze, you feel a breeze, you know? But it didn't sit right with me that like, not only do a lot of our local shops pride themselves on being living wage, but they count in the consumer subsidizing their payroll in that living wage.
Tipping, yeah.
And they tip it. And so you do this and you're saying, well, I'm living wage. You're not having to pay like the actual 15 or 16 or 17, or whatever it is per hour. You're getting help from your customers with that. And then you're going to sit here, and as soon as it was maybe 2 weeks, and a lot of people just like cleaned house. They cleaned house. They're like, you're laid off. You can't work. There's nothing we can do with you. And even if they gave them like another 2 weeks checks, like, hasn't it been like 70 days? You know what I'm saying? And like,
Mm-hmm.
how is it that you're getting money in every day and you don't have a nest egg to do something for your employees better than just like have another thing to have your customers subsidize your responsibility, you know? And what Coco Cinnamon did was a marketing, like we saw marketing change in
Mm-hmm.
that moment because they sat there and they were like, this is how much we need to pay people, period.
Mm-hmm.
And can you guys help us? And so like the consumer, we have no problem if you're transparent with us and being like, yo, I need to make money so my folks can make money. And even before all of this happened, like how many times are you going into coffee shops and you're seeing women of color older than 22 behind the bar? Like people that like have responsibilities, people that are having like, you know, have children and have, you see like this community. And even though like people have like, I'm not from Lakewood, so I can't like
Mm-hmm.
get into that conversation. But what I will say is like I came in there and I would see like folks and I would be like, hey, what's up? And I see folks like, what's up? What's good? All in the same place,
Mm-hmm.
drinking the same coffee. And like that's the shit that I'm into. And like I don't know, like they did so well and they were transparent with us. And I hope that this like just like skyrockets them. And I hope that like, you know, other places can like look and see like what they did and, you know, especially towards that, because that was just, that was great. That was wonderful to watch.